Let's call the meeting to order. And are you ready, Diana?
I'm ready.
Okay. And it's the Planning Commission. Everybody set? We need to approve the agenda and the minutes of the Planning Commission for January 12th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve without any changes.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Jerry, second it. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And new business, Tim. Neva.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight we have a conditional use permit request to operate a seasonal event venue wedding barn within the FAR 3 zoning district. It's proposed by Carol Berglund and proposed to be operated by her daughter Tamara Krause. Background and considerations of this. Tamara Krause, the daughter of the property owner Carol Berglund, is proposing to operate a seasonal wedding barn event venue. Ms. Berglund lives on site. The applicant is proposing to host up to 150 people, but would be interested in more if allowed. The 240-acre property is located on County Road 60 in a rural agricultural area of the county. The nearby landscape is characterized by forests and agricultural areas. The nearest dwelling is over 1,000 feet from the barn. See Figure 2 in your packets. This distance is similar to the required 1,000-foot buffer between dog kennels and nearby neighbors to provide an adequate sound buffer. Parking area is proposed in the field and driveway area. The applicant is anticipating approximately 50 to 100 plus vehicles during events. County Road 60 is an unpaved road. Events are proposed to be hosted seasonally from June through September as weather permits. Music will be in the loft area of the barn. Alcohol will be served and food will be catered in with a kitchenette area for a refrigerator and oven. No cooking on site. According to the Minnesota Department of Health, MDH, an MDH food license will be required if there are any dishes being done on site or food prepared on site. If everything is being catered in, then MDH food license is not required. The applicant proposes all events to end at 10 p.m. with the barn emptied out by 11 p.m. The applicant has also proposed a large field to be used for additional large tent space. The nature of this large tent space is unclear in the application and should be further clarified during the public hearing. The barn does not have any plumbing at this time. The applicant is proposing to have portable outhouses rented on site for the initial year or years. Future plans include adding a septic system, pressurized plumbing, and restrooms to the barn to make this facility more functional. The applicant has provided a list of improvements made to the barn in preparation of this venue, as well as additional improvements to be made before the venue is operational. Staff typed up the handwritten notes provided by the applicant and included this as a memo in this packet. The Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry defines a place of public accommodation, also known as a PPA, as follows. A publicly or privately owned facility with an occupant load of 100 or more people and is a sports or entertainment arena, stadium, theater, community or convention hall, special event center, indoor amusement facility, or water park or indoor swimming pool. Cook County has not adopted the building code and has no local enforcement. With no local code enforcement, the Construction Codes and Licensing Division of the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry has jurisdiction for projects with an occupant load of over 100 people. There are a number of requirements associated with the state review, one of which is that portable toilets are not acceptable per state requirements. This suggests that the CUP as submitted will need to be either amended to lower the occupancy to less than 100 people or make improvements to meet the state requirements, which likely will include a septic system. Please refer to the Places of Public Accommodation fact sheet that's included in this packet. Zoning considerations. This property is located in the FAR 3 Forest Agricultural Zoning District. The principal purpose of the FAR 3 zoning district is to provide for permanent and seasonal areas at a medium density. Farming and other rural areas activities are also allowed. Let's see. Wetlands are located along the riparian area of Woods Creek. Fill brought in to improve the parking area will need to first secure appropriate permits. See below for location of wetlands. Staff recommendations. Staff have discussed the Minnesota State Building Code issue and potential solution, which is amenable to the applicant, which would be that this CUP is processed as an interim use permit for less than 100 occupants. Interim meaning for a specific amount of time. After the designated period of time, the applicant will come forward with a revised conditional use permit request meeting the Minnesota state requirements. Staff recommend the Planning Commission address the following items during their review of this proposal. 1, a condition is approved which states The property must comply with all local, state, and federal rules and secure necessary permits if the CUP is approved or IUP. Occupancy, it is most appropriate at this time for this permit to be limited to less than 100 occupants. If occupancy is less than 100 people, no building code enforcement is required. If occupancy exceeds 100 people, Minnesota law requires state inspection and various improvements to the property. Sewage, please see memo from Environmental Health Officer, which outlines details about the portable toilets. Parking, the parking is spacious with large field areas for parking. Woods Creek, a public waterway, is classified as a tributary river segment, approximately 400 feet east of the barn. The field parking is proposed between the barn and the stream. There is an existing access to County Road 60 from this field. The zoning ordinance requires all parking areas to meet structure setbacks. In this case, that is a 100-foot setback from the ordinary high water level from Woods Creek. A condition could be considered to require all parking to be off-street and no closer than 100 feet from Woods Creek. Parking should be laid out in a way that allows for emergency vehicles to easily access the event location. Congested parking could cause issues for access in an emergency. Item 5, stormwater runoff. The Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District provided comments related to the potential for increased stormwater runoff to Woods Creek due to the compaction of soils caused by the proposed parking area. To mitigate this impact, a condition could be considered which requires a native vegetative buffer to filter stormwater runoff from the parking areas. Lighting. With events ending in the evening hours, what is the plan for lighting and will that cause potential issues? I included a link to the International Dark Sky Association. On their website, they have some really nice resources for limiting the potential impact of light pollution. A condition could be set to require all exterior lighting to be downcast by fully shielded light fixtures and lighting colors to minimize blue light colors. Item 7, noise. Indoor music is proposed to stop at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. No outdoor music proposed. A condition could be considered limiting music to indoor only and specify quiet hours. Item 8, signage. All business-related signage shall comply with the Cook County sign ordinance. Item 9, fires. Without pressurized water source, outdoor fires should be prohibited. Once pressurized water is in place, a condition could be reconsidered. And item 10, no overnight camping or lodging. Our office sent out 10 letters of notification to adjacent property owners. At the time of this narrative, the only response we had gotten was from the Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District regarding Woods Creek. We did have an administrative issue with reaching one of the adjacent property owners, so I did get a last-minute letter submitted, and I asked that that be accepted in the record so that that is included. It is from Tyson Smith, and if you would like, Madam Chair, I can read that because it was a little bit of a late addition.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Dear Commissioners, please accept this letter for your consideration and for the record in the above referenced manner. I live at 481 County Road 60 at the northeasterly corner of the Berglund's property. The folks who live in this neighborhood do so because it's private, residential, wild, and away from the hustle bustle of town. The proposed use describes a high-impact commercial operation designed to cater to large numbers. Given the volume requested and nature of wedding receptions, this seems likely to cause a dramatic change incompatible with the current character of the existing neighborhood. Although the number of us affected is admittedly few, I ask that you consider a few practical realities. First, Cook County has no real enforcement mechanism for CUP conditions. Pragmatically, conditions come in two forms. Those that an owner must meet to obtain some county permission, like a building permit, and everything else. Cook County enforces the first, but has no practical ability to enforce the second. Occupancy limits, quiet hours, decibel limits, compliance with Minnesota rules, Chapter 7030, outdoor lighting control, and liquor service hours all fall within this second category. Second, neighbors are accountable to each other. However, the application seems to propose operation by a non-family resident family member. Perhaps the applicant could identify the boots-on-the-ground contact person in case of problems occur. Third, the application itself is rather brief and lacking detail regarding compatibility with the existing neighborhood and conformity to the comprehensive plan. Because of the location of the improvements on the property and the way the sound and light travel in this area, us nearby neighbors are likely to be participants in these events. Concerns such as loud music, speech amplification, traffic control, discouraging trespass, and preserving public safety by preventing drunk driving could well be mitigated if the applicant provided more information about the proposal. If you are inclined to grant this request, because of the foregoing, I ask you to consider doing so on an interim basis with a return hearing date. I wish to be respectful of my neighbor's right to use their own property, particularly so if this use will help the Berglund family maintain their family farm. If things work well and without the feared impacts, full approval could well be an easy decision, and I would support. If the alternative is true, it will give us all the opportunity to reevaluate. Thank you for your consideration, Tyson Smith. That is all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And is there someone who wishes to speak, the owner or representative of the owner? And the microphone is over here. State your name and address, please.
My name is Tamara Krause. I am the daughter of Carol Berglund. I started renovating this barn because Elton, my dad, wanted the barn redone. It's a historical barn built in 1924, and it started about 4 or 5 years ago. I had the barn straightened for 2 years. I put a metal roof on. We've been reinforcing the interior upstairs. I have a new flooring put down in the loft now. I'm going to have it insulated in the front and the back, north and the south side. I have brand new windows put in right now. I am, the next step is we are painting the exterior for appearances and preserving. We put new wood on the outside. The goal is to put a covered porch on the east side of the barn so you can sit outside and be comfortable. On the east side of the barn is where if a tent had to be for a wedding, if they didn't want it upstairs, they have that available. The main, the lower part, just repairing the old wood, leaving the stanchions as they are, the feeders in the middle. I don't know how many tables I can put on both sides of the stanchions, maybe 5. That might be 8 people per table. I don't know how, I'm just trying to visualize it. And down the center, there can be smaller round tables. And then on the south side, you can have the large wedding table. I will have on the back side 2 French doors going out to the back side. I was going to have a covered porch there. Up above is going to be a porch, French doors to walk out for exterior, for safety. Because I need an exterior, I need a north and south. I need at least 2 outlets to get out from upstairs, just in case. I've got new stairway put in the lower level to go to the upper in the barn. Floor-wise, we're gonna put cement, smooth it out, and stain the cement floors. I have a section where I can put a kitchenette, and it's just going to be for warming or keeping things preserved, refrigerator, kitchen, oven. Liquor-wise, right now I'm just thinking wine and beer. Hard liquor, I'm trying to stay away from that right now. I don't want to get any hassles with that. Activity-wise, they can start in the afternoon. Things should settle down by 10 o'clock. There should be no reason to begin any later than that for a wedding. I had this done. I had a wedding venue for my daughter down in Brule, Wisconsin. Smaller barn, beautiful. It was the best thing ever. So that's why I'm starting to do this. And the other thing is, since I'm putting money into repairing this barn, I'm trying to get some money to go back toward me. And that's, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm going to start, I want to try this summer to get everything done by end of June. See if I can get small weddings, just to see how it works out. And like I said, less than 100 is fine, because I don't want it overwhelming. I need to see where we're at.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And is there, we'll open it for the public hearing? And is there someone from the public that wishes to speak? And I'll have you scoot back to where your seat is, and then we'll start with this gal here. State your name and where you live.
Okay. Is it appropriate for me to give you a statement that I'm going to read? Is that helpful? Or should I
If
just
you have
read
one
it?
for each of us, and one to put in the record.
No.
Copy for the applicant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops, I give you two. You just need one, Charlie.
Thank you.
And we'll have you read it into the record.
You bet.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
it would be nice if the
Yeah,
applicant could
I
come.
have. I was going to give her one if I ran off. I'm like, right, thank you. Oh, hello. Our names are Ann, and I'm here with my husband Wayne Russ, and we're the nearest neighbors to Carol Berglund, living just northeast of her, as seen on the map in your packet. We have the highest regard for Carol and wish her family well, but we have some serious concerns and questions about the proposal before you. Our neighborhood is a quiet one. Man-made sounds are limited to the operation of seasonal farming equipment and occasional car driving on our county road, neighbors mowing a lawn or plowing a driveway, and quiet conversations that drift up the hill to us as people walk along County Road 60. Natural sights and sounds are abundant. I personally have watched bear, moose, deer, wolf, coyote, and fox all travel through the Berglund fields. Thank you very much.
Yeah, almost feeding them.
Yeah. Back and forth, yep. As I walk the county road bordering the Berglund property, I've heard or seen over 110 species of birds. And that's all possible because our neighborhood is so quiet, you can hear a raven's wing beats as it flies overhead. So the thought of 50 to 100 cars arriving and turning in to park across the end of our driveway, 100 to 200 car doors slamming shut, followed by hours of music and celebratory partying, more cars slamming shut and driving away between 10 and 11 at night or any time at day, to be repeated for up to 5 months of the year is worrisome to us. We absolutely want to be good neighbors, and we want to help the family, the Berglund family, succeed in keeping the family farm intact. And now that I hear her trying to recoup her costs, I can understand that also. But we're concerned about losing the essence of why we moved to this neighborhood. If you are inclined to approve this request, we would ask that the following be considered. The parking area to be moved to the area behind the barn, or perhaps to the field west of the Berglund home. This would lessen the sound impact for us, move parking away from Woods Creek and wetland areas, and be more accessible for arriving guests. I wanted to make a note. In your packet, there's a map that shows our home as being 1,030 feet away from the barn. However, if we're accurate in where the parking areas are proposed to be, that's closer to us. It's more like probably 700 some feet, or I'm not exactly sure, because I'm not exactly sure where the parking is proposed. Also, that any music not only be played inside as proposed, but be contained within the barn. So for instance, sound insulation could be added inside the barn. They might make use of acoustic music or limited amplification, that the windows would stay closed to keep the sounds within the barn. That the dark sky that we enjoy be maintained. Possibly set an end time of sunset, which would eliminate the need for any additional lighting. And that approval for this project be given on an interim basis to be reviewed at a later date. Thank you for your consideration. We appreciate knowing that you are examining all other issues to ensure compliance with existing regulations. And again, we wish to be good neighbors and appreciate the chance to seek mitigations to reduce impacts of the proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to comment? Okay. State your name.
Tyson Smith, 481 County Road 60.
Thank you.
Thank you for accepting the submissions late, and also for the record, I actually quite like this concept. I think that would be a beautiful place to have a wedding, and I think it's a really good use of property. I think the Berglund family should be allowed to use their land as they want, and if I was sitting on 240 acres of Cook County ag land, I would sure want a way to make that financially sustainable, because I imagine that paying property taxes for that many acres over a long time is not just an easy thing. I just don't want to participate in some of the bad components that might happen with the wedding. I'm not interested in dodging drunk drivers on the way home or listening to the thump of a bass drum from a DJ's amplification system, you know, ringing the living room windows on the weekends. But I think a lot of that is going to come down to how it's operated. If it's operated well by a respectful neighbor, then chances are good I'm going to be supportive of this request if it comes back around. I do really like the idea of doing it on a try and see basis. If it works well, then I think it's a benefit to the community and certainly to the family. And if it doesn't, we can talk about it. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to comment on the proposal? Step forward. It needs to be new information.
Well, I just,
Name?
my name is Wayne Russ
Right, thank you.
with Ann. I wanted to just indicate that there are some other or parallel kinds of concerns that I have as to what Ann read. And I'll start off by saying that I'm not from Minnesota. So when I drove, and I used to work for the Forest Service, but when I drove County 60 and hit that farm for the first time back in the 80s, I was impressed. I was really deeply impressed because it was so beautiful. It was my home kind of country. I love that view. And it was just serendipity that we were able to buy a property there or bid on a auction and we were able to get property there. And it's just that view out our window is just a treat of our lives. And it always is something that I'm fearful is that the farm isn't going to be able to stay there forever. And of course, it doesn't have to be there forever. It can happen after I die, and I guess I won't worry about it. But the point is, it is an incredible situation for us, and so we are a little concerned. And I've got three major ones I would like to bring up. One is that it's to me, this opportunity to have people come in from all points, anywhere, to see a corner of our county that is so unique and beautiful that they probably wouldn't normally see, sets up for, by the hundreds, I'm thinking of many, many people doing this, sets up for a pretty good opportunity for people to sort of get the notion that this would be a nice place to live, particularly based on the fact that it's getting easier work from home, that there is pressure now from many areas for people to move into areas of the country like ours, particularly because of climate migration. And so it's a matter of this concept to me is setting up to be a catalyst to help sort of bring in people to settle the area. Now, I know that's something that probably many folks on this board would love to have happen. And I understand that, but from our perspective, it just is a aiming toward changing the neighborhood. That's a personal thing, and it isn't necessarily something that, you know, we're likely to say we're not going to allow. I mean, we're not in any position to say we're not allowing it. It's just that that's what we feel. The other thing is that that I see is that this farm is crucial to maintaining the dairy farm because of its haying capabilities. And I trust that you're talking with your cousin about this, and so I'm just hopeful that you know, the farm is maintained as an operational kind of a thing. I see that it seems to me that in the proposal that you have considered that and are, you know, trying to work around that, and I appreciate that. We really appreciate that, because it really is, I think, important to sort of keep that entity in the county. It's special for its products, but also because it keeps the land in farming sort of scenario. And I know for a lot of people like to see that. So in the proposal, however, and I'm not sure, we have a disagreement amongst Ann and me about where the parking is proposed, and I guess we're not supposed to ask Tamara right now, but what appears to me to be what I would call the orchard area where the apple trees are. That looks to me to be the main parking area, and one that to me is it doesn't, you know, parking in that area doesn't threaten Woods Creek. I'm a resource manager, I'm a wildlife ecologist, so I'm kind of familiar with these things. So I'm just looking at that as a fairly decent shot at, okay, that's an okay place to park. But even though it's losing some little small haying area, it's somewhat sort of keeping it minimal. If the parking, it goes into excess parking, then you start getting the concerns about Woods Creek and so on. But it also, to me, gets into access for other, you know, concerns in the farm and you know, bale storage and that kind of thing. So I'm really hoping that there's a way that the proposal can consider the area southeast of the barn. It's now sort of a shrubby area, to maybe develop a parking area that's really not.
I almost would go on the northwest.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's, and the other thing is that you know, when we first moved to the area, the roosters would just crow all day long, and I kind of got anxious over that often, and then I thought, you know what, this is a family farm situation. This is remnants of a family farm, and it's not. I had to just pinch myself every time saying, I don't like the idea, the reality that we have lost so many family farms in this country over the last 20 years or so. And so it wasn't like I had to pinch myself hard to realize that I was really lucky to be able to have that sort of thing in the backdrop.
Right.
And I just hope that I can, you know, I hope that whatever this turns out to be in terms of noise and light pollution, that it is not something that sort of violates that whole notion. You know, the sounds coming from below are, you know, I like the memory of the roosters much better than the thought of the loud music.
Okay, Thanks, Wayne. Did you wish to comment? Okay, thank you. So we'll close the public hearing, and we'll go to the commissioners here. Are there questions the commissioners have? Or comments? Keith?
As it's stated, this is kind of a new use in this land zone, and so we don't have a lot of experience with it, and I'm kind of concerned about a number of issues. One is, how can you serve alcohol? Do you get a special license per event? No, I mean, I mean,
I was not going to do the hard liquor.
well, I don't think it matters if it's, I mean, you still have to get some kind of
Have to be
a
licensed.
license for serving any kind of alcohol. Oh, Neva?
Yeah, my understanding is it's through the auditor's office, but that's kind of why we have that catch-all phrase in our conditions, the one that, condition if approved, the property must comply with all local, state, and federal rules and secure necessary permits, so that the things that aren't land use related, that are more health issues, it kind of says your CUP or IUP, you have to get all those other permits that you're required to get. It's not on you guys to require that.
Okay, but I think the sale of, I mean, you know, in the real world, we know that when you mix alcohol and large groups of people, and it's festive, and sometimes it can be, you know, it gets a little too festive. I mean, this is one of the concerns expressed. So,
I'm not selling. I won't be selling the alcohol. So I don't know where that would go into. It would have to be brought in from the family. Anything, any food, drink, can be brought in per
okay,
family.
okay, so you're not,
And I don't know, yeah.
I would
Tim.
say, Madam Chair and Commissioner Cutler, the, whether it's serving alcohol or selling alcohol, that again is related through the advancement of a liquor license, if that's needed or not, and that would be through the auditor's office. And it's my understanding, actually, the County Board of Commissioners who does the final approval authority for liquor licenses. So it may be needed even for serving of alcohol. But then again, that is included in, or would be included under that condition of requiring all permits if they're necessary.
I have one more question. It's only,
Okay, Keith.
how, are you going to have defined hours of operation from start to finish? You said trying to get people out by 10 or?
Definitely. I'm not setting any times during the day. By 10 o'clock, I don't want anybody messing around at the farm by 10 o'clock. I want them out by 11 for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, because like when we do other conditional uses, like gravel pits and stuff like that, we have hours of operation from certain start to finish. So I would like to see that as a condition possibly added,
Like
you know, to nail that down.
2 o'clock for a wedding?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not, I think we just need to define it. Maybe it's noon to 10 or something, or
I think
whatever.
the ending is more crucial.
Well,
than the
it's,
beginning.
these things usually take place on weekends when people, neighbors and people are recreating and want, you know, are used to more peace and quiet. And so, I mean, we want to be,
Okay.
we set the hours of operation. I think we could set a bracket.
Okay. Is there other members of the planning commission that wish to ask questions? Make comments?
I do see this as a potentially really great use. I do think that the concerns that are stated are all very valid, and I really appreciate the work Neva did to really kind of bring us into conditions that should mitigate this, and moving it forward as interim, and putting a time frame, whether, you know, 1 year I think would be a good time frame to come back and review if it really worked, if it was really didn't work for the neighbors, or if it proved to be a successful operation. So I really think moving forward as interim for 1 year would be a really good option with this.
I'm going to let anyone else who might have a question before Keith.
On the parking too, like, I think the parking should be all off-street too and on property. Like, some of these conditions need to be more clarified for
Okay.
me.
I think we need to decide first whether we can approve the use and then go to the conditions second. But I think this is all good. And Wayne, I'll speak in my turn. I hear what you're saying, and this may be a way to maintain your neighborhood as you know it. Otherwise, I mean, the reality is, keeping these farms, it costs too much money to maintain a farm, and this may be the ability to maintain what you know and love.
I've already put over 100,000 in it already.
Right, right. Okay, so maybe is there any other questions anyone has? Keith, you had a question.
Well, now I've kind of lost track of what that question was, but,
Okay.
so we're talking about, we're going to have, I guess, yeah, now I'm thinking correctly. So we look at this, I kind of look at like a gravel pit, where we have an annual review. So we look at if it meets the recommendations and the stipulations, and and if there are complaints that they can be dealt with, fine, then it's renewed for, on an annual review basis. And I think that's a fair way to look at it, the same way we do with gravel pits, because it's not it's a new use in this area. And it may or may not be a problem, we don't know, it's an experiment. And so if we look at it once a year, come back in for an interim review.
Okay, so is anyone in disagreement with exploring the use? Seems reasonable. Now we can talk about conditions, and we've talked about many. And we've heard from the public as to what would be reasonable, and I think we can set conditions that will work for everybody's benefit. And Neva put out 10 of them?
I put out 10 items to discuss, not necessarily 10 conditions, just
Correct.
things that I could think of that may be potential impacts.
Right.
If I may, Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I respond to Mr. Commissioner Kaufler's comment about the timing? So
Right.
one thing I wanted to kind of clarify for everybody is that this originally came to us as a conditional use permit, which stays with the property in the event of property transfer. So a lot of the conversation tonight has been about the Berglund family and their responsible stewardship over the property. But if there's a sale and a different entity came in, a commercial, event venue or something came in and had different management styles, I want you to think about these conditions as though, in the future, we're thinking about that CUP transferring. I've been working with Ms. Krause to transition this into an interim use approval, and I would make the recommendation that this be for a specific structured amount of time, not to be renewed every year, but rather let's give this a designated sunset period so that she kind of has something set forward that she can kind of plan on for her improvements and renovations and when she would need to come back for that conditional use permit renewal. So interim use will go away at a transfer of the property, in that event. Not that that's what we're discussing, but just the nature of the two things. I just wanted to make very clear for anybody that's here.
Okay. All right. Let's go through the condition potential and see if we can figure that out.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can we just have a little bit more on the interim use idea?
Sure.
If we do interim, we could do a 1-year interim, at which time this would expire, but the applicant can come back. We can reevaluate our conditions. And we could also at that time issue another interim, but, say it looks like it's working, let's go 5 years, or something like that, but.
And we could
just-
condition it so that it would end when the ownership ended.
Well, I think maybe for the sake of the neighbors and the concern, maybe we want to do a 1 year.
Right.
A 1 year trial year, just to prove that it's gonna work, that it's not gonna be a disruption. And then go for a longer term, whether it's property ownership or 5 years or something that allows the owner to make more investments and have some assurances that she's got a permit. But I think for the first year, I would suggest doing a 1 year to sunset, expire the date of approval from the county board, or
Okay.
a 1 year interim, if the landowner is agreeable to
Okay.
that for a trial period.
And how about the occupancy numbers?
May I speak, Madam Chair?
Yes.
To me, the limiting to 100, keeping that underneath to not have to get into Department of Labor and Industry and some of the other requirements probably is a really good idea for the first year.
And does that include children?
100, yeah.
I would think
Total?
No.
Okay, sometimes they don't include children. So total number of people, kids and adults. Okay. Parking? Keith?
Okay, I'm a little concerned with the parking. So this is going to be used as parking. What happens if we have a rainfall event, the ground gets really soft, and you've got this event planned for that weekend? And if you drive on it, on a farm field or, undeveloped parking area, you're going to be, I'm not familiar with the soils on your farm, but I'm familiar with some of the soils around the county, and I've lived on some that can turn to mush with the rate of rain. If we've got an area of some of that red clay and whatever, and I know drainage and all that enters into it, but what kind of provision is there for something like that? I mean, does that enter into the considerations, you think, in terms of, would you eventually be putting like a gravel parking pad down, or?
Well, we already this fall put gravel down on the main circle, and if I have to put more, we'll put more. In the circle, it is grass. I don't know, about 20 cars can be parked, go in, park this way. Up on top of the circle, they can park down maybe about 5. There's a hill a little bit you can park up. And then by the Maynard building, the big metal building, there's parking areas, and that's where I can. And then we have a road that goes up back onto the west field. And that's not bad, but I don't think I need that many cars to go up there. That's for the extra.
Mm-hmm.
Down behind the root cellar, if I have to, we will have to assess that and see if we need to put more gravel in so you can drive onto, just parallel park on the fence line there. Not gonna go below. That'll be the extra if I have to, if that's where. I don't know how many cars I can get in there, So I'm just playing guessing myself, but I've got the land.
You could put a number on cars.
May I speak, Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think this may actually be an item that is for sure, as Keith said, a concern. If you get a big rainstorm, you're likely going to have a problem in the grass or. It's also a function of the business is not going to work if the cars can't be parked there. So if there's enough business, I expect the operator to gravel it and make sure it works, or do what's gonna take to make sure that works. So I think as far as our conditions, we could stick with something to the effect of number 4B. Condition could be to require off-street parking no closer than 100 feet from Woods Creek, OHWL, and to maintain the vegetative, maintain that 100 feet as a vegetative buffer, to keep that vegetated grass, and so that there's
Okay. And then-
some, so that we don't have concern of runoff going to the creek. So I think that would be, I think the business conditions will dictate
Right.
the rest of it.
And 4C is important
And
too.
yes, C is very important, to be included, that
And then
emergency vehicles.
storm runoff, that should be considered 5.
I think if we just amend that section B to be maintaining the vegetative buffer within that 100 feet, that addresses the concern that were stated in Soil and Water's letter.
And then the lighting,
We have a big light right now that the electric people put up in front of the barn. Little spotlights here and there, in front of the garage, turn on. We have a light there already in the garage. We need another one near the circle. I don't know if there's a pole, electrical pole there or not. But if we have to, we'll put one in the circle area.
and you understand about the dark sky.
Oh, you want it flashed out? Lights, yeah. Well, we can,
Yeah.
I'll figure something.
How about the low sodium?
So I can turn on the lights and shut them off, so they're not all there all night.
Right.
What,
We don't want all that lighting.
what is it, what do they call the bulbs that aren't as, it's a dimmer light, softer light, low sodium, or the ones that now they're using all the street lights?
I don't know that one off the top of my head.
Yeah.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Yes.
When I was going through the International Dark Sky Association, the reason I had mentioned the two, they have a lot of different best practices for light pollution. The two that seem the most straightforward for the applicant to apply on her property were just the structural downcast. There's a bunch of shields that are, and on their website, they've got like tons of pictures of like, this is good and this is bad. So you can go to a hardware store and be like, I want this style because it's on the good column. So that was one good recommendation, and then just minimizing the blue light colors, because the blue light is what impacts your nighttime vision. So you want those warmer hues than the blue hues.
Yeah,
So
I guess that's what I
why
was thinking of.
I don't know exactly what the name of it is, but I think that's part of what that's related to.
Okay. And noise,
Could we
yes?
just revise that condition to be that the exterior lighting is downcast and with shielded fixtures and minimizing blue light colors, and that the applicant will,
So B,
yeah, be, and the applicant will refer to, basically, this isn't a condition, recommend that you look at the dark sky recommendations, and that will go a long way to
yep.
having this be able to be renewed in multiple years.
And the noise, we've been asked to condition it to be used indoor only, music. And I've lived with these amplifiers, and it's not pleasant. I don't know how you limit that.
I think that.
Set a decibel limit.
Yeah, I
You
think.
don't.
Yeah.
You're gonna get it. Everybody's gonna hear it. I might even hear it at my house.
If it's inside,
If it,
I mean, if you've got somebody playing a guitar, that's one thing, but a heavy metal band is another.
They're gonna open doors and windows.
No.
Not gonna be contained to the inside.
And then also it says 10 PM or 11 PM.
10, music should stop. By 11 o'clock, people should be out of the place.
So that would be part of that hours of operation idea.
Right.
Music stops at 10.
So you'd be rewriting condition number 7.
Right.
to say music stops at 10. And people are gone at 11. Am I clear on that?
Okay, Tim?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just kind of a point of information here. We do reference the MPCA Rule 7030 noise rules in our ordinance. We can include that in. I know there was a comment earlier that has been submitted that it's difficult for us to enforce, and it really is. But we actually have the sound decibelometers to go out at the property lines and test all of those things. There is always, and we always have had a lot of discussion with noise with regards to kennels, and that's why we established that setback distance from a kennel to a property or a dwelling, and that is set at 600 feet. And in this case, that is, this request is wider or a longer setback distance than the 600 feet that we have established in the ordinance for the kennels. And there's a distinction between being able to hear the noise or whether it exceeds the standard. So it is possible to hear the noise. You can hear one dog barking in the night, a long ways away, but does it exceed that standard? So the best we can do is have a measurable standard in there of the 70-30 and the hours. I think you're right, are the
Yeah.
two ways to be able
And
to
this
manage
isn't,
that.
we're talking interim,
Yes,
so if there's problems,
yes.
we can take care of it. The sign ordinance, all signage. And fires, number 9. And no overnight camping or lodging. Any comments from anyone on any of those?
I agree with how 8, 9, and 10 are written.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I have a question of concern.
Okay,
Are we opening ourselves up to liability, knowing they don't have water, knowing they don't have any code enforcement, rule enforcement, any of that stuff? If things get out of hand, what happens?
well, this is a recommendation to the county commissioners, which helps with the liability as far as we're concerned. And I guess they would look towards that and see how they felt about the liability.
Precisely. Those would be questions for the county board.
Yep.
One
And
final
Keith.
question. It says the use is going to be seasonal. Now, do we want to define that in this conditional use? You said from what?
Because the barn is not insulated well, and I don't have heat in there, so I'm lucky in June 1st into September sometime, the weather will hold up.
September 30th?
That's about,
So we could put that
So June 1 to September 30th.
as a condition. And that kind of minimizes the impact for the, for neighbors and whatever too. Because you might be willing to
Okay,
endure something if it's for a shorter period of time in the year.
all right.
Oh, Neva had her hand up.
Neva?
I might have missed it, but did we go over the sewage one? Did that get skipped over?
We didn't talk about, I'm sorry, I shouldn't.
It's just really brief in here because our environmental health officer wrote a memo for that. And in his memo, he stated the signed service agreement with G&G Septic Service prior to each wedding event shall be submitted to the Environmental Health Department to ensure and protect public health and environment by proper maintenance and discharge of the toilet waste treatment devices. So I would make the recommendation that potentially that is considered as a condition.
Okay. Okay, are we ready for a motion? Tim? Oops, excuse me.
I
Tim.
guess we would need to amend number 3 to reflect Mitch's letter, but I, even though I know we don't have any other septic services here, we should state it as a licensed septic service provider,
Correct.
not a specific company.
Thank you.
Okay, Tim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was just going to come back to Commissioner Giesecke. It's all in the hacks at with regards to enforcement and such, and it is, how are we gonna look at it and such, in the fact that it's an interim use permit, it is only for a year, it's a trial period. We will, if it is applied for in the next year, we will be doing a full review of the permit. Also, if it is brought up at any time to us during the tenure of this year as to whether there would be concerns from neighbors or anyone else as to living up to the conditions or not living up to the conditions, we have the ability to bring it back before the Planning Commission or the Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners to revoke the permit even before that year if it is out of hand. So there are mechanisms to be able to safeguard that. It's just from a staffing wise thing, we need to. It's difficult for us to get out all the time, so that's why it's good to get the observations from the neighboring properties and such.
Okay. Anyone ready to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve with all of the conditions, with the additional conditions added. And I don't have the list, but in terms of it being an interim use.
An interim use, 1 year
terms of-
interim.
From June through September 30th, in terms of defining the season.
And the occupancy at 100 or
Less than
Less.
100.
less than 100? And the parking, I think we resolved that.
Yeah.
We want 4B and C as a condition.
Yes.
Number 5, we want that to be there. Number 6, we want B condition.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair? Did you
Yes.
say number 5?
5,
Earlier in the discussion, I understood the conversation to say that the 100-foot buffer would support the concerns of item 5. Was there a condition there that I missed?
I don't know if we had a consensus on that.
Okay.
Why not just include them both?
Number 5 is not really a
Isn't it?
condition, it's more
Describe.
so.
Oh, okay.
Well, the native vegetative buffer, is that
Yeah.
what we're referring to?
Yeah.
Thank you.
at 100 feet.
Okay. 100-foot wide native vegetative buffer, is that correct?
Right.
Okay, so that's number 6. 7. There we got into noise levels.
And the music stopping at 10 too.
Music stopping at 10.
Right.
And they would be in compliance with the 70-30 statute by the state of
Right.
Minnesota.
Okay. And number 8, 9, and 10, we all agreed that was, okay, so that's your motion, Keith.
Yeah, and that's with the 1 year interim approval.
Okay, so the motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Adam got in first. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay,
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Done. Okay.
I'll give you a call tomorrow with break half. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Be in the afternoon.
Okay, sounds good. Have a safe drive.
Thank you guys. Nice meeting you. I know, it's such a. Hey Jerry, you're on.
Okay, as soon as I open up
Find
my,
it.
For her to be able to have over 100 people legally, she would have to put in quite an extensive septic system to begin with.
I do have a concern. I'm gonna be leaving town for a month.
I get to throw them out.
I would like to come in and see you when I get back and get all the information I missed.
Yep.
Start getting caught back up.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Perfect.
Not a problem at all.
take a couple minutes break.
Yep.
I guess I'm excused, right?
You are.
Nice to meet you. Yes, it's fun.
All right.
We'll all get on the golf course this year.
tractor. Oh, wouldn't that be good?
It's hard to get stock report to relevant history.
All right, well, take care, have a good trip.
And it's like, how far should we go? Yes. Hey, Libby, how's it going? We'll have one hearing before you, and then it'll be your hearing.
Captured the
Yep.
concerns of the neighbors, I think.
What?
I'm-
Yeah,
I
he's on the
really
planning
welcome
commission, not
our
Board of
neighbors.
Adjusters.
Two separate boards,
And this
same
probably is
members,
the
Yep.
ticket.
but one has
to
7, one has 5.
Not coming in for a planned unit development of 300 homes.
Local government.
Oh, well, that's not going to happen, Judy.
All those California folks?
Yeah,
You want to join?
No.
I don't think.
I've been to,
It could, we would still have the planning, it would have to be platted, you know, I mean, that would be a
first they'd
long
have to
term.
Denny, are you on the
change, and then
line?
they'd have to
Yeah,
plat.
so I don't,
Okay, we're live right now.
Oh,
Denny, are you on the line? Okay, sounds good. Yep, we're just about to start the Board of Adjustment meeting. I just wanted to double check you were here, okay? I'm gonna mute the line and then I'll unmute it. when we're
Pretty
ready
well
to go.
set?
They're waiting to get somebody on the line here.
You're
What's that?
welcome.
They're waiting to get somebody on the
Oh,
line.
okay.
We're good to go.
We're good to go, okay. We'll open the Board of Adjustment meeting for February 16th. And first we'll deal with the minutes and the agenda. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
I would motion to accept the minutes and approve the agenda as written.
Okay. Is there a second?
second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye and raising their hand.
Aye.
Okay. That'll bring us to the first order of business, which is the updated Krause application. Do we have more information on that at this point?
Mr. Chair, the applicant requested that that be delayed into the March meeting due to his travel
Okay.
plans. So it'll be before you again on March 9th.
All right, that takes care of that one. We'll move on then to the Fitzpatrick variance.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to be asking, I want to recuse myself. Mr. Fitzpatrick is a friend and a neighbor we've known for 28 years, and because I have a indirect personal relationship, I think I should recuse.
We can accept that as a voluntary. So that would leave us with, we still have a quorum then, so we'll proceed. If there are difficulties, we may revisit that issue, but at this point, I'm not sure that there's any substantial issue about that. So we'll proceed with that, the application for Denny Fitzpatrick. Is there anybody in the audience to speak for that?
He's on the phone line.
He's
Mr.
on,
Chair.
okay, he's on the phone.
Yep.
All right, well, let's open that issue up then, case number 2022-2V.
Would you like me to read the reports, sir?
Yes.
Sure, okay. The request before you is a variance from the minimum lot size standards for the recreation of 2 substandard size lots in the FAR3 zoning district. The background, Mr. Fitzpatrick received a variance in 2008 to reconfigure lots 9 and 10. The purpose of the configuration was to place the property lines to follow topographic features for better development potential. The variance was approved unanimously with the condition must disclose to prospective buyers that there will be a need for a holding tank and will require a maintenance agreement also. The following the variance approval in 2008, however, the administrative subdivision application was not completed. There was a survey that was recorded by the landowner, but records are not clear whether this was aligned with the variance approval. There appears to be some discrepancy between the variance request description and the survey that was recorded, which reflects Mr. Fitzpatrick's current request. The current owner of Lot 10, Serge Nowitzki, purchased the property from Mr. Fitzpatrick in 2014, both of whom were under the impression that the lots had been reconfigured per the 2008 variance approval. Only recently, when the landowners noticed that the lot lines on the county mapping software displayed the original boundaries, did Mr. Fitzpatrick become aware that the reconfiguration of the lots in accordance with the variance approval was not completed. Variance request summary. The reconfiguration of lots 9 and 10 are basically a 0.4 acre swap between the two properties following the topographic features. Both landowners of Lot 9, Fitzpatrick, and Lot 10, Novitsky, are in support of this request. Considerations. Mr. Fitzpatrick did record a survey which suggests that he attempted to follow through with the variance approval. Unfortunately, records are unclear regarding whether the recorded survey is the same as the variance approval. Variance approval decisions are valid for 3 years. This time frame has since lapsed, requiring a new variance approval. The decision letter from Land Services following the variance approval did not clearly state the landowner was to complete the administrative subdivision application following the variance approval. Current decision letters would clearly state to the applicant that the administrative subdivision application would be required to complete the request within the allotted time frame. 18 letters of notification were sent to adjacent property owners. 1 comment letter was submitted in favor of the request from Roger Barton. The letter is enclosed with your packet. And the applicant is on the phone line. I can unmute his line when you're ready for him to speak.
Okay, thank you, Eva. Now, let's, I will open it to the comments from the audience, present or not present at this point. So go ahead.
Denny, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here on the line. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, good. Hey, I love it when technology works. Thanks. I just want to thank all the board members and everybody at NEVA for guiding me through this. Thanks for your community service and gratitude and appreciation for that. Well, if you read the packet, it was really put together nicely by Diane. It's kind of a housekeeping item. Everything adheres to zoning ordinance regulations. The lot sizes remain the same. It was approved years ago, and I just didn't realize I had to submit the administrative subdivision application. So we're just cleaning that up, and I appreciate all the help and guidance in that.
Okay. Is there anybody else that has comment on this particular issue? Hearing none, I will close it to the public and bring it to the commissioners and open it for discussion here. Are there any members of this commission that wish to speak to this?
I'll speak.
Go
I've
ahead.
run into this before, and it's a matter, when this was done, it wasn't communicated that it had to be recorded, and it's just housekeeping.
Okay. Anybody else?
Seems really straightforward.
Yeah. That's what
Yeah, it seems that this is more or less a re-clarification of an issue that's been settled. We just need to state it for the record, and so if there's no more discussion on it, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move we approve the variance.
I will second.
Okay, it's been moved and approved, moved and seconded that we approve the request as stated by Mr. Fitzpatrick. All those in favor signify by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Case is complete. You're done, Denny.
Hey, thanks a lot. Can you still hear me there?
Yep.
We can.
Hey, I so appreciate it. Thanks so much for helping me through this, and I appreciate the community service you do, and gratitude and appreciation, and I'm glad you've got a kind of a protocol reminder now for people like me to submit that administrative subdivision application. I didn't know there was that extra step, so that's great. Thanks, keep up the good work. I'm going to go mute for the rest of the evening.
Okay.
All
Thanks,
right.
Denny.
Thanks, Denny.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Let's move on to the next order of business. Will be an application by Mike and Libby Sullivan. Parcel ID 49-632-3140, and case number 2022-3V. Neva.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request for a variance from the ordinary high water level setback distance to expand the deck and add a breezeway entrance to a cabin on Seagull Lake at 12191 Gunflint Trail. Background, 2 variances have been granted on this property. In 1979/1980, a variance was granted to then owner Ronald Johnson to add the lakeside deck 38 feet from the lake and an enclosed 6x8 porch 70 feet from the lake, as well as a boathouse. Conditions of approval were that the deck be elevated 15 feet above the water and the porch not be visible from the lake. In 2007, the previous owner applied for a variance to rebuild 3 of the 4 original structures that were destroyed in the Ham Lake fire. These included a cabin, boathouse, and storage building. The BOA then approved to rebuild the cabin and boathouse 38 and 30 feet from the shoreline respectively. In addition, the BOA approved the square footage from the storage building to be incorporated into the cabin. Seagull Lake is classified as a recreational development lake, which has a structure setback requirement of 100 feet. Variance request summary. The applicants, Elizabeth and Michael Sullivan, are requesting relief from the ordinary high water level setback to construct a deck addition and 11 by 20 foot screen porch entrance to the cabin. The cabin is entirely within the 100-foot structure setback to Seagull Lake. The cabin is meeting the side yard and road setbacks. The applicant has explained in their application that the existing deck needs to be replaced due to weather damage and dry rot. By expanding the existing deck to wrap around the cabin to the main entrance, the applicants hope to increase the functionality of the cabin's deck. The screen porch entrance is proposed to alleviate water damage from uncontrolled runoff. The cabin does not have gutters or downspouts. Please note that the photo below is not to scale. Staff note, the applicant submitted 2 items that are incorrect. First, the sketch drawn by the architect suggests the cabin is 50 feet from Seagull Lake. This is inaccurate. The cabin is 38 feet from the lake, verified by the review of the 2007 variance approval and subsequent land use permits, as well as measuring on aerial photos. I think that 50 feet is just where the property line lands out into the lake, and that's what the architect had used. I don't think that was purposeful or anything like that. Secondly, the application narrative states that the additions do not violate the setbacks. This is inaccurate since the entire cabin is within the 100-foot ordinary high water level setback. Again, that just comes from that 50-foot measurement from the architect. Considerations, due to the layout of the lot and the placement of the existing cabin, there is no conforming location to construct the porch entry or deck expansion. A 6 by 8 foot screen porch entrance was approved for the original cabin back in 1979 with the reasoning that it would not be visible from the lake. The applicants are proposing an 11 by 20 foot screen porch. The applicants have stated that gutters and downspouts are not their preferred option due to the Northwoods weather. However, properly installed gutters and downspouts are common in the Arrowhead region and will provide relief to the water damage issues stemmed from uncontrolled runoff from the cabin. Gutters provide an important role in controlling stormwater runoff on riparian properties. Staff recommend that if an approval of this request is considered, gutters and downspouts are a condition of approval to mitigate the impacts of the increased impervious surface area by directing stormwater runoff away from the lake. Records from the environmental health officer indicate that the septic system was inspected in 2009. Certificates of compliance remain valid for 5 years. If the variance is approved, a septic inspection will need to be conducted. Please see the environmental health officer memo included with this packet. If approved, the following conditions may be applied to this variance. 1, septic inspection request form shall be submitted before the issuance of any land use permit. 2, no vegetation shall be removed within the shore impact zone. 3, gutters shall be installed on the cabin and direct stormwater runoff away from the lake. 4, only vegetation necessary to facilitate demolition and/or construction shall be removed. 14 letters of notification were sent to adjacent property owners. At the time of this narrative, only 1 comment was submitted on behalf of the Cook County Soil and Water Conservation District and a memo regarding the septic system compliance from the environmental health officer.
Thank you, Neva. Is there anybody here from the ownership of this? Okay.
That's us.
If you would like to step to the microphone, state your name and then make your comments.
Thank you. My name is Mike Sullivan. I'm one of the co-owners with my wife, Elizabeth, here. So I think the only thing I'd like to say is that we did put a lot of time and effort into this submission, and we learned a lot for sure along the way. And we think that our request is reasonable. We for sure have to replace the deck because of the rot and so on. And what we really want to do is have access to that deck from the exterior, which is what the wraparound walkway would provide through the breezeway that we're proposing. And so I think also the conditions that were recommended as possibly being added to this, I think are reasonable, and we certainly are open to those. So, given the completeness of the submission, I guess I would just, that would be the comments that I would have.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you. Do you have some?
Oh.
I'm Libby Sullivan, you own it with Mike. The other thing I would add is that we don't have access to the basement from the cabin. So the main living space, there's no staircase that takes you down to the basement. So we have to go outside and go around to go downstairs. And so to have this access to the deck for some outside space, because it rains and quite a bit sometimes when you're out fishing and you come home. So that's a huge thing, is not being able to get downstairs from the upstairs and to have some outside or extra space that you can access without having to go all the way or down and around.
Thank you. I think that was a very important clarification. It helped me understand it even a little better. There appears to be nobody else in the public to comment. We don't have any phone calls. I will close it to public comment at that time and bring it to the board. Do any of the commissioners have any further comment on this at this point?
I would like to understand a little better
Okay, go ahead.
where the screen porch, is that on the lakeside?
No, so the screen porch would be on the east side, the northeast side. So it would be visible as you come right down from the Gunflint Trail, the road, to enter the cabin.
Okay,
It would be minimally visible from the lake.
okay, so it's not getting closer to the lake?
No,
No.
no, none of it gets closer to the lake.
Okay.
Are there any other comments?
I guess I'm making an assumption, I should clarify. The photos in the application of the side, that's the side of the house we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And that's, as you just stated, away from the lake.
Yep.
Okay. No other further questions? I will entertain a motion if somebody has one.
Okay, this Deborah Mark comment, maybe I'm not seeing it. Will be, says notices, one from Deborah Mark came in this afternoon.
Yeah, I should have clarified. There are materials in your packet from the earlier variance approvals, because I wanted to
Oh.
give you some background history.
Okay, so that's prior.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, that answers that question.
I think we need to answer the questions on our sheet.
If there are concerns about them, we can add them in. Yes, go right ahead. We'll go right down now. Where did that sheet go? There it is. All right, question 1. Is the variance consistent with goals and policies of the comprehensive land use plan and in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Cook County zoning ordinance? Consensus on this?
Yes.
Okay. Is the proposed use of the property allowed in the land use district in which the property is located?
Yes.
Okay. Is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the Cook County zoning ordinance?
Yes.
Yes. Has the property owner established that the practical difficulty involved is due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner? The answer to that is also yes. Will approving the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? I think we're in consensus on that as well. Has the property owner established that the practical difficulty involved involves more than economic considerations alone? It wasn't a consideration of it at all. I think that unless there's a dissent, I think we have satisfied the requirements of that, answered those questions.
I would, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to approve with the 4 conditions as written.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve it with the conditions attached to that. Is there any further discussion on the issue? Hearing none, I'll assume we're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising their hand.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried and
Abstain.
you are granted.
And Keith abstained.
What's that?
Keith
I abstained.
Again, for both?
Well,
No, I
he's
didn't
recused.
recuse, I abstained. Not, I didn't vote yes or no.
Okay.
Okay.
We got a hand signal for that.
Yeah, you're entitled to do that.
I'll give you guys a call tomorrow.
So we can work with you
Yep.
find next steps.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you.
Have a safe drive.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the Board of Adjustment.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to adjourn, and we do so at 6:20 today. All signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Done. Carried.